where's the balance? Because one of the pushbacks from people who are pro ISA 95 is that if you allow things to just show up and in an unstandard way, ungoverned way, it quickly becomes a wild west kind of situation,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So can you kind of like help us understand how does knowledge build up, and how do you sort of like make sure you keep everything in check so that you've got some enterprise wide you're able to correlate things from an enterprise wide perspective, as it were.
Yeah, and look, it is something that we grapple with because people come back to us and say, well, that sounds like a free-for-all. Anyone can write any context. How do you know that you're not going to create nonsense, as you said, or contradictions? And in one part of your plant, you say the sky is blue, and on the other side of the plant, you say the sky is green. And somehow it's all just this ginormous mess of data. We have in our 3Cloud tool checks and balances to do that. And we can delve into that a bit deeper later. But going back to the context, our clients may go, well, this is great, let's do this. And we say, how many tags have you got? And they say 500,000 or 5 million or what have you. And they go, so how do we build context? Do we get all those tags and then what happens? Magic fairies form context? And you go, no. In fact, don't even worry about that many tags. Let's just figure out the ones that you think are important. And let's actually really spend the time figuring out how they can be useful. And then once you do that, then you get the feedback to say it's either useful or not, or it's useful, but we need to know a bit more. We always see that starting small with those key bits of information, when you've got the right ingredients in place of curiosity and urgency, and this is important because it's telling us something valuable, that triggers off a process of further context building. And once you've got your head around something to say, yep, it's useful, we measure it, it checks out, we've got it, you can scale that knowledge, right? And that's what we see. An OEE for one line, and you've figured it out, and you've understood the relationships, you might have an ability to scale that to another part of your plant. From a reliability maintenance point of view, you say, well, I've got a motor gearbox, I'm measuring vibration, I've got a failure mode, I'm really getting use of this. Oh, guess what? I've got 500 motor gearboxes. I can scale that context now. And so our view is start small, really test the context, understand the cause and effect relationships, validate them, do it very quickly, iteratively. Once you're happy, then you can scale to those 500,000 data tags. That's kind of how we answer that question. Context is about trust. Can I trust that the relationships I've built is telling me something meaningful, and I can reproduce that to keep giving me that meaningful information? And can I now build on that for further insights? And ISA 95 standards gives you a feeling of trust, but it's not the only way to build trust in your context. In our view, it's better to build something, test it, validate it, test it again, and then scale it.